24 of the best chess tips for you to win more games. Ready? Here we go. Tip number 1, control the center. As you can see here, white has controlled the whole center, meaning that now white is able to develop his knights and his bishops to get going very quickly, whereas black has only controlled the sides of the board, meaning that he can't develop any pieces yet, giving white an immediate advantage out of the opening. Tip number 2 is to develop knights before you develop your bishops. This is because knights can immediately attack the center, just like this. Whereas, if you were to develop your bishops first, just like so, what can happen is your bishop usually takes a few moves to become very useful. And also, in the future, it can be pestered by a few pawns. For example, this d pawn on the d file. So it's better to avoid all that and instead play it safe with your knights before your bishops. Tip number 3 is to try not to move the same piece twice in the opening. As you can see here, white has already developed their bishop to the c4 square, so there would be no point in trying to move it again because it hasn't even been attacked. But in this position, white plays the move bishop b3, simply handing the move to black, and all of a sudden, black is able to castle first, meaning that we, playing white, are down a tempo because we moved the same piece twice in the opening. So the moral of the story is only move the same piece twice if it is being attacked, and instead develop new pieces so that you can always keep ahead of your opponent. Tip number 4 may sound really simple and obvious, but it is so important, and it is to castle early. At the end of the day, king safety is the number 1 priority in chess, so if you can get your king safe in as little as 4 moves, that is a huge bonus for you. Tip number 5 is to avoid bringing out your queen too early on in the opening. This is because your queen can be attacked by so many pieces early on in the opening, and you really do not want your chess games to look like this after just 5 moves. So instead, do what we learned earlier, bring your knights out and then bring your bishops out, and I'm sure you guys will do great in the opening. If you found the tips helpful so far, don't forget to smash that subscribe button for more videos just like this one. After the opening, in a position just like this, you may be thinking, well, what am I meant to do now? Well, luckily for you, tip number 6 solves just this, because tip number 6 is to connect your rooks just like so. As you can see here, the move queen d2 not only creates a battery with the queen and also the bishop, but also it connects the rooks just like this. And the main thing is that rooks, when they're connected, work very well because they can slide along the back rank and perhaps support pawn breaks in the future. Tip number 7 is to look for weak squares in your opponent's position which you can target. Now, as a base piece of knowledge which you guys should know is, at the start of the game, the 2 weakest squares on the board are the f2 and the f7 squares, just like this. You guys may be wondering why. Well, it's because, well, those are the only 2 squares on the board which are only defended by the kings, just like so. And I'm going to explain this to you guys with a very famous opening which I'm sure you guys probably know and might actually know the theory of, and that is the fried liver. And I'm going to show you how, of course, it does actually take advantage of one of these squares being the f7 square, just like this. As you can see by the arrows, the king is the only piece that defends the f7 square, and now we take advantage of it with the move knight g5, attacking the f7 square with the knight and also with the bishop. A nice example of how you can target weak squares in your opponent's position. Now time for tip number 8. Tip number 8 is to be very sure before making every pawn move you make. After all, they can't move backwards, so if you commit a pawn, make sure it's doing a specific job, for example, defending a piece, and make sure you're not leaving yourself open to attacks. Tip number 9, when up in material, trade. Which position is easier to play, this one or this one? In both, white is up a rook, but in the second, there are less pieces on the board, making it easier for you to win. Tip number 10, get your knights into strong knight outposts. Take this position for example. Of course, it is unlikely that you'd get this exact position in your game, but this is just to show you guys what a knight outpost is. We can play the lovely move knight d5 in this position, and this is a knight outpost for 2 reasons. First of all, it is supported very well, and secondly, it is on the enemy side of the board with there being no enemy pawns on the other side of the board able to attack our knight. So this is a lovely knight outpost, and in this beautiful example, this is actually a fork on the king and the queen as well. Tip number 11, only make trades that benefit you. Here is an example of a trade which doesn't benefit you. Imagine you're playing as white and you play the move bishop takes f6. You may be thinking, well, we've just traded a bishop, which is 3 points of material, for a knight, which is 3 points of material, so surely that's a fair trade, right? Well, in terms of material, you would be correct, but in terms of the position, you would be wrong. Because the thing is, in this position, black can simply take back with their queen, and you've just helped them activate their queen while also removing a lovely pin which you literally just had. So instead, in this position, it would be clever to keep the tension just like this and instead develop a piece like knight f3 or simply push a pawn forward like e4, because the whole point is, with the move e4, they can't capture back because of the pin on this bishop, if you can see how everything interconnects. Here's another example which is bad for the same reasons as before, where we simply capture on f6 and they capture back. This is bad for the exact same reasons before, because we do not gain anything from it and black has simply just been able to develop their queen for free. So instead, it would have been better to maybe play a move such as knight c3, knight d2, or simply just castle your king and be nice and safe. For tips number 12 to 14, I'm going to do them quick fire. Tip number 12, always check for checks, captures and attacks. This way you have evaluated all the important things in the position and are more likely to make a great move. Tip number 13, learn basic tactical patterns like forks and skewers so that when you have the chance to punish your opponent with a tactic, you can. And tip number 14, calculate everything before making a sacrifice. It's great to go for an all-out attack, but it's also not so great when you accidentally blunder pieces by not calculating. For tip number 11, I'm going to give you guys 5 seconds to think about who you think is winning in this position. If you said, well, obviously it's white, you are correct. And the whole reason this is because of tip number 11, king activity. King activity is key in endgames because, as you can see here, black is very far away from white's pawns, meaning that black can't really capture white's pawns very quickly, whereas, as you can see here, white can simply get to black's pawns a lot quicker than black can get to white's pawns, and now all of a sudden white has a clear path to promotion and will simply go on and win the game. Tip number 16 is to know common checkmating patterns so that you can checkmate your opponent with the pieces available when you have the opportunity. This leads us very nicely onto tip number 17, which is passed pawns are gold dust. Now, a passed pawn is a pawn which is advanced beyond all enemy pawns, basically meaning that it is a pawn which cannot be stopped on its way to promotion by any other pawns on the board. Now, in this position, I would create a passed pawn by playing the move f5, because if black is simply to capture back, well now all of a sudden this e-file pawn is a passed pawn, because it has a clear path to promotion on the e8 square, because there are no pawns on black's side of the board to be able to actually capture this pawn on its way to promotion, so all of a sudden it is a passed pawn and is free to promote. But instead, if black doesn't capture back this pawn on the f5 square and simply plays something random like king b2, well we could simply just push this pawn straight anyway, and all of a sudden our f-file pawn is a passed pawn because now it has a free path to promotion because there are no pawns ready to stop it. Tip number 18 is absolutely beautiful, and it is to always look for zugzwang in an endgame. Now, zugzwang is when you put your opponent into a position where whatever move they play, no matter what piece they move, they are still going to be completely losing. Take this position for example, which is actually a very famous chess position. Pause the video here to see if you can find the winning zugzwang move, and I'm going to give you guys the answer in about 3 seconds. Pause the video here. If you said the move rook a6, very well done, because of course black only has 2 legal moves here. Either they can capture the rook on the a6 square just like so, and after this we have the beautiful pawn b7 checkmate defended by the king just like so. But you may be wondering, well, what else can they play? It's not like they can take back this pawn because of this pin. Well, it turns out they can actually simply move their bishop to any of these squares. For example, let's say they move it all the way over here to the h2 square. Well, it is much more simple because we have the beautiful rook a7 checkmate supported by the pawn just like this, with the king cutting off the escape square. Now that is a very extreme example of zugzwang, but I wanted you guys to see the most beautiful example of it so that you guys could learn in the best possible way. Remember what we said earlier about passed pawns in tip number 17? Well, it turns out tip number 19 is rooks belong behind passed pawns. Now this tip is pretty self-explanatory because the rook will simply be able to support the passed pawn on its way to promotion, meaning that it can become a queen, and the only thing black can do is simply sacrifice their rook for the passed pawn, just like so, and in this example they do that and we're simply totally winning. Tip number 20 is to try and keep your pawns healthy and connected rather than doubled and isolated. The perks are that they will be able to defend each other, not get captured, and be more likely to go further up the board. Now time for 4 quick tips on general chess advice. Tip number 21, don't play too fast or too slow. If you play too fast, you probably won't play the best moves, but if you play too slow, you won't have enough time to finish the game. Tip number 22, analyze your games after you play. The best way to improve at something is to learn from your mistakes, and in chess, that's done by game analysis. Tip number 23, ask yourself what your opponent wants from the position. For example, here, if we were playing as white, we could see that black is trying to get back rank checkmate with one of their rooks. So what we could simply do is play the move h3, improve our position ever so slightly, and also more importantly, stop the checkmate and give our king a little bit of breathing room. Tip number 24, have fun. If you have fun, you will certainly learn better, and more importantly, you will definitely play better in games. It's as simple as that. So make sure you pick openings and time controls that you enjoy playing so that you can have the most fun with chess as possible.